Computer. All right, so we had a little technical glitch, but we're going back. I don't even remember what we were talking about.
So we were talking about the idea that what you need to do to lose weight is the same thing that you need to do to maintain your weight. And you had a beautiful line about your goal, I think. What was the line again?
I can't. Someone told me this, and it's just been like it's been like now become my mantra that the way you get your goal is the way you keep your goal. And I'm just like, yes, that is like, you know, as you're working with clients, you're always trying to find like that thing that like that connects with them, the thing that they're going to be like, yeah, you're right. And that's the one thing that I have found, because, you know, I'm sure you see people come in all the time and all the crazy things that tell you they've either done or they want to do, and you're just like, Lord.
Yeah, totally. And I think, so, you know, sometimes people think that if you don't believe in diet culture, that means that you don't believe in weight loss either. They think the word diet culture does not equal weight loss. And often say to people, you know, you're allowed to change the way you do things. You're allowed to, I mean, you're actually allowed to do anything because you are the boss of you at the end of the day. Who am I to tell you anything? But if you want to change maybe your health or even, and you know, you may want to change your shape. You are allowed to do that. But it's this idea that people will do it at any cost.
Yes.
Any cost to their body for this ideal. And then they do, you know, and I look, I've done it. We've all done it. I've been on millions of diets, and I have done wicked things to my body trying to get smaller, and then wondered why it's not sustainable, or that I fall off the metaphorical wagon and then just put it all back on. And then I just go, oh my God, I'm hopeless. I can't just stick to anything. I can't maintain. I'm useless. And then that kind of becomes the part of my identity, is that, yeah, I can lose weight. I just can't maintain the weight loss.
Right. And but you also then become the identity of I'm a failure. Right.
Correct.
Because we assume all of the role. We assume the role. We don't ever think, do you think that was just a little too hard for me right now? Do you think that was a little bit too advanced for me right now? Do you think maybe I'm trying to, you know, go to school, I'm trying to get a promotion at work and trying to diet, and it just wasn't the right time? Like, we don't ever look at anything other than I failed. I couldn't succeed at a diet.
Yeah. And I think the tricky thing is too, that up until very recently, all of the eating plans were pretty much low fat and calorie counting. And if it wasn't calories, it was points. And points are just a fancy name to do calorie counting.
Right.
And look, the human body doesn't work on extreme, it doesn't function on extreme calorie restriction day in, day out. It just, if you restrict your calories day in, day out, your body goes, oh my God, I haven't got enough fuel coming in. I'm going to slow a few things down. I'm going to slow down my heart rate. I'm not going to grow my fingernails as quickly. I'm just going to not make as much hair. I'm going to reduce my body temperature by 0.3 of a degree or whatever it is. And then you go, my weight loss is slowing. What's going on? And so you restrict further. And then the body goes, oh my God, there's still no fuel coming in. I'll restrict, I'll slow down further. And that's basically how you ruin your metabolism and your metabolic rate. And, you know, for years I did, you know, calorie counting, 1,200 a day. And the sneaky thing in there was that I didn't actually care what food I ate as long as I stayed under my number.
Exactly.
So nutritionally, I was probably depleted. I was probably malnourished ridiculously, because I spent my whole time trying to eat diet food, which was some sort of fake chocolate mousse made by Weight Watchers, because my brain goes, I don't care, it fits into my points.
Right. It fits into my points, and you know, it might taste like plastic, but it fits into my points.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there was this hideous sort of lemon cheesecake yogurt that I used to eat, which sort of sounds nice, but the artificial sweeteners were so overpowering and disgusting But I didn't care because by eating this, I was going to shrink my body. And so that didn't matter. It did
Right.
not matter.
Exactly. I think about how many times I like choked down, a nasty ass protein shake because, I needed to get the protein in. And,
Yes.
I'm like holding my nose and
Yeah.
chugging it down.
Yep. And so when we have then this kind of concept of diet culture, it becomes entirely about us as the individual, and we assume all the responsibility for what's going on. And we end up using, because you're on a diet for a start, that's the kind of concept everyone says, oh no, I can't eat that, I'm on a diet. And then if you're not on a diet, then where are you? You're often in what I call bender land, where you're just eating
Yes.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so you develop this kind of all or nothing mindset, which is you're either on a diet, super strict, restricting, being air quotes good, perfect,
Yes.
or you're on a bender, eating everything
Yes.
in sight before you start your next diet.
Yeah. It's so funny. So, she's in Australia, I'm here in the US, and the language transcends any continent, right? We all get into that clean, bad, healthy, unhealthy, bender, like there's
Yes,
always so many, there's no difference between where we are. Like our crazy ass dieting can transcend any country.
absolutely. And it's so interesting because everybody, I tell lots of different stories, and people will say to me, oh my God, Lucy, are you in my mind? You know exactly what I'm thinking. And I'll
Right.
go, no, you're the same as everybody else in the world. We all get lured into this kind of just these false promises, and remembering that the diet industry is massive, a multi-billion-dollar
Right.
industry, with people promising they
Right.
don't promise short-term solutions. No one ever says to you, I can help you lose 5 kilos just for 2 weeks, or 10 pounds. You'll only keep it off for 2 weeks. But no one ever says that. They just
No.
go, I can help you lose weight and it's going to be so easy. All you have to do is follow my plan.
Well, but then I also get sucked into if you say in 2 weeks, I'm going to lose 200 pounds, and I'm like, oh, I'm going on holiday. I need to lose that 200 pounds. And who gives a crap what happens after holiday? As long as
Yes.
I make it to whatever it is you're trying to make it to. And so we kind of keep kicking that rock down the road.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I know. And it's the same. Yeah, people often have a big, wedding or a graduation or something where they think there's going to be photos. And so they want these photos, these images of themselves smaller. And then that's their sort of, mark on in life forever. When
Yeah.
really that's not actually real.
No, it's not real. And if we circle back to like diet culture, they're so like plugged in to the buttons that need to be pushed, like the buttons that just like light up your brain like a freaking slot machine, like what to say. Like they spend, I don't even know how many umpteen hours studying women and just giving us like, what we think are the keys to the castle. Like if I don't have fat or gluten or soy or this or this or this, they spend so much time vilifying a food group.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. We both work with women in their 40s. So we think about the first thing was fat. Like they were like, if you had any fat, you were gonna die.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Instead, I'll have this chemical laden shitstorm of yogurt because it's low fat, tastes like rubbish, but it's going to get me thin.
It's low, right? It's low fat. Or I remember, I don't know if they still make them. I've been meaning to Google it. I'm sure they made it to Australia. It was called Snackwells. They might have changed the name, but basically it was a line of more like cookies and like brownie type things that were low fat, no fat, but were like Oreos or like, your insert your favorite chocolate chip cookie, but it was like the low fat, no fat kind. it tasted like freaking cardboard.
Yeah.
But you felt really good because, I think they might have told me that it had no fat and it was only like 100 calories.
Yeah. And again, the idea was that the calories were important because you had a limit on calories. But it's so interesting because we know that, 100 calories of cookies does different things to the hormones in your body to 100 calories of, meat and vegetables.
Right. Yeah. And so, so as my 40 something women are listening, and I know that you work a lot in your clinic with this, so many people say to me, oh, my hormones, it's the reason why I'm fat. And I'm like, is it? So talk to how, yes, hormones do play a role. However, it's not the end all be all.
No, and it's interesting because when people hear the word hormones, you think immediately of your female hormones, estrogen and progesterone. But in fact, there is actually a whole lot of metabolic hormones that are involved in in the way we metabolize our food, store our fat. So the metabolic hormones, in particular, insulin, leptin, ghrelin, they're our three main hormones. So insulin is heavily involved in our fat storage.
Right.
Leptin is part of our satiety, so our fullness signaling. And ghrelin is our hunger hormone. So, I grew up in the 80s learning about diet culture, and ghrelin hadn't even been discovered yet.
I know, so, isn't that funny?
This is how much we are still learning. There's other hormones involved. They've got fancy names like peptide YY and whatnot.
Right.
But we're still learning about how so when I talk about metabolism and metabolic rate, that's really about how we digest our food and store our energy for the future. And we're still learning that. And so a lot of the information we were given was wrong about, and particularly about low fat. That has just had a disastrous consequence overall for people because low fat, as you said, those either the biscuits or the cookies tasted like cardboard, or they supplemented the fat with truckloads of sugar.
Right.
And then that has then gone on in particular to cause a lot of insulin resistance and the explosion of type 2 diabetes. So again, 100 calories of sugar has a big difference on our hormone, on particularly the way we metabolize our food compared to 100 kilos of, say, protein.
Yeah.
So whilst I don't love particularly getting into the mindset of counting macros and all that sort of stuff, because that's just another form of diet culture, I think it really is important to recognize that for lots of people, they do have dysregulated metabolic hormones. And so insulin resistance in particular is a big driver for hunger.
Yeah.
And it also stops us, leptin resistance stops us feeling full. So when people talk about being hungry, they often actually are. And again, diet culture teaches us that hunger is bad and that it's a character flaw. If you're hungry, then you're just weak, greedy, terrible person.
So two things I want to circle back to. So, someone listening to us will say, well, I know in order to lose weight, I need to be in a calorie deficit. And you and I are going to say true story. But then, so they're like, well, how do I get into a calorie deficit if I'm not tracking my calories?
Yeah. So there's a difference between calorie deficit and calorie restriction. Dieting is all about calorie restricting. We were given formulas, you eat 1,200 calories a day, and if you exercise, for an hour, you will also burn off an extra amount of calories. And so it was this idea that losing weight is simple maths, calories in, calories out. However, we're not just, we don't have calorie receptors. We're not just a straight line. In between all of that, there's a billion, well, not a billion, but many metabolic processes that go on that work out how we store our fat. And the thing that happens is, well, two things happen again. What you need to do to perhaps, and again, depending on, I guess, if you're overweight and if you've been overweight for a considerable time, then the likelihood is that you have dysregulated metabolic hormones. So the idea is that we need to rebalance them. That's why, I love this word balance. And that's the first key to being able to empty, if you like, your fat stores.
Right.
And the way I guess I like to think about it is, if we think about our body as requiring heat, for example. So let's say we've got like a fireplace, and anybody knows that if you're making a good fire, you need both kindling and logs. So kindling is our glucose, which is actually our carbohydrates that we eat, and the logs are like our fat. And so we can either eat the fat or use our stored fat. And so the idea in really well-running metabolic processes, you use a bit of kindling and some logs. Bang, you've got beautiful energy for the day. However, for lots of us, we don't have any logs next to our fireplace. They're in what I like to call a woodshed. And so you toddle out to your woodshed, and your body is trying to get access to its fat stores. And when it tries, it's opening the door, it's trying really hard, but the door's locked. And the padlock is insulin.
Right.
So some people have one padlock, but honestly, some people have 5 or 6 padlocks.
It's a dungeon.
Yeah, it is locked shut. And so they come back to their fireplace. It's getting low in energy. It's dwindling just a few coals. And that's when people start having what they'll call a hypo, and they'll go, oh my God. And they literally start they're hungry, they're lightheaded, they might even be sweaty, they feel terrible. Their brain is going, eat something, for God's sake, eat something. And so you grab the fastest, quickest way to get glucose in, which is often a cookie or some chocolate, and you feel immediately better. And you go, good, I feel better. And this is exactly what happens then in people with metabolic syndrome or dysregulated metabolic hormones. And so they end up on this cycle then of hunger, and they then start associating it with cravings, and then they're scoffing, food in, and it's physiological. It's not that they're weak-willed.
Right.
It's not that their brain is going, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So it's really important, I think, for people to recognize that there is metabolic processes that go on that do cause us to eat and so you basically then end up fueling your body just on kindling. And we know what happens if you try and warm a house with just kindling. It doesn't really work. You're constantly having to stoke your fire. You're buying giant piles of kindling to put on. So I guess one of the things that we really recommend initially is having a look at and again, without going into too much counting of macros or anything, but particularly with your sugars,
Right.
having a look. Are you a person that eats a lot of sugar? And people will always go, oh no, I don't eat any sugar, except you find out, because they think sugar is sugar in your tea.
Right.
But
exactly.
Sugar is everywhere. It's in lots of our processed products.
But the other thing I because I always tell people, look at the sugar, and I'm like, you're going to find it surprising things, like chicken broth. Like it's chicken broth. Like, why is there sugar, molasses, or whatever? And I'm just like, for the love of God, like, it's supposed to be a savory thing. Like, so I don't understand why you think you need to put sugar in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's in tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, but it's also in bread and pasta sauce and
right. And I'm like, did our ancestors ever put sugar in bread?
No, of course not. Of course not. So, and I mean, part of it is it's a little bit like, cigarettes. So people smoke because it's got nicotine added. They get addicted to the nicotine.
Right.
Sugar is also an addictive product.
Right.
Not everyone gets addicted, but not everyone gets addicted to alcohol either. So people go, oh no, I eat sugar, I'm not addicted. It's not addictive. Yes, for some people it is.
Right.
And so again, food processors, they're not out to try and help you manage your health. They're out to sell products.
Exactly.
That's their sole purpose. whether it's a health food company or a junk food company, their entire modus operandi is to sell you more product. If they put, ingredients in there that light up your reward system for dopamine, then you're more likely to go, gee, that product's really yummy, I'm going to keep eating it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, people are like, okay, so I'm not counting calories, which, I think what the takeaway we're trying to give you is that for a lot of people, calories become nebulous. They also become, 100 calories of a sweet processed treat versus 100 calories of chicken breast or broccoli does not equate the same as your body starts to process and digest that. So as people are trying to navigate this, they're thinking to themselves, well, what do I do? Right.
Yeah.
What do I do? And, I like your thought process. It's like, I'm trying to keep it simple, right? Because it's like, I don't want to be running to my phone and constantly adding in my food, because that sucks. Or
totally.
you feel like, wait, what did I have? And you're constantly feeling behind on your food tracking, or it goes well for a while and then you just throw your hands up in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to keep it simple, because our brain is often, look, brains are funny things. They don't like change in general.
No.
They don't like change. They're very comfortable doing what they've always done, even if what they've always done is not that good for us or harmful to us. It is easier to do that than to change. So we need to make the change really simple. I totally agree with you. And I have a little formula that I use to try and build a plate, is what we call it. And the idea is that you pick a protein. Our bodies actually love protein, and most of us undereat protein.
Right.
Again, I'm not big on counting, you don't have to weigh, you don't have to weigh everything, but you pick a protein, and your protein can be meat, fish, and the meat can be red or white, I don't care. Meat, fish, eggs, dairy. And for people that are vegetarian or vegan, you can look at soy, tempeh, even pulses. So that's your sort of protein. Then you pick some vegetables and you go, okay, what veggies? And I like to just pick a few colors. So a green veggie, a red veggie, a yellow veggie. So that'll be, I go, what have I got? I don't care. It'd be broccoli, mushrooms, and some yellow squash or something like that.
Right.
And then if your protein is lean, so if your protein is, say, eye fillet or something that doesn't have a scrap of fat on it, add some fat to your plate. You are allowed to have fat. It is not the devil.
Right.
And for me, I actually love butter. And there's nothing wrong with butter. It is one ingredient, butter. There's nothing else in it. So it'll be butter, or my other one is olive oil. They're my two fats that I'll often add. Or depending, if it's like a curry, I might add coconut cream, for example. That's a fat. Right. So you've got your protein, add some veggies, add some fat, and add some flavor. So the flavor is herbs and spices.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It's so simple. And when you've got a little bit of that, fat and protein together are very satiating. And satiating means keeps you full.
Yeah.
So I tell this little story about, in Australia, we have these biscuits called Tim Tams, these cookies called Tim Tams. They're kind of our iconic cookie. Maybe they're not like Oreos, but I know Oreos are your iconic cookie. They're these chocolate coated sandwich little biscuity things. And everybody knows them and everybody eats them, and they're our go-to when we're sad. They're our go-to when our boyfriend leaves us. They're our go-to when we're watching movies. They're just what you eat. So I know that 9 Tim Tams, which sounds like a lot, but I could have easily put 9 Tim Tams away. Right. 9 Tim Tams has the same calories as 12 eggs. Now, in a packet of Tim Tams is actually 11. So I already know myself well that the old me would have gone, well, I've eaten 9. Well, I might have
eat 11.
2.
Right.
Yeah. So you wolf down a packet of Tim Tams over a couple of hours watching a movie, no problem. There is absolutely no way that I would be able to eat 12 eggs.
None.
My body would start, you'd start going, oh my God, I feel sick. Oh, these eggs are terrible. I cannot possibly eat any more eggs. And the reason for that is that they are a beautiful, perfect combination of fat and protein. And your body knows itself well and says, you know what, we're done. That's enough. Yeah. Thank you very much. And so not only do you not eat as many calories by focusing on fat and protein, you also don't go through this whole insulin surge that I was telling about, because those Tim Tams get straight put into the woodshed and you can't get them back again.
Right. They get into the wood sled and like the 50 locks go on and there's a guard.
Yes, absolutely. And then you go, right. And so then 2 hours later, or you're actually hungry again. You're thinking, I'm hungry. What's going on? So basically their Tim Tams have been processed into the shed and back to low kindling ashes, no fuel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that, that's a really good example, because a lot of times for my clients, I'll say, let's stop snacking. And they're like, but I'm going to be hungry. And I'm like, are you going to be hungry? Or is it you're used to that at 4:30, you're used to walking to the fridge and getting whatever it is you get out of the fridge. So, I know for me, when I had to relearn how to eat, I was a clock eater. I ate at this time, ate at this time, and ate this time. And, my doctor at the time, she's like, all right, Kim, she goes, I want you to not get up in the morning and make breakfast. If you're not hungry, don't eat.
I know that is one of my favorite rules.
And that was like the first, because I was like, she's like, she goes, how do you eat? And I was like, well, I usually get up by 6, and by like 6:30, 7 o'clock, I make something to eat. And then by 10:30, and she's like, okay, so you know what time you eat? And she goes, well, are you a shift worker? That's your specific break. So you have no choice. And I said, no, I can eat whatever the hell I want. She goes, so she's like, you're eating by the clock. She goes, I need you to stop eating by the clock. So she's like, if you wake up in the morning, she's like move around, like have a cup of coffee. If you don't feel like you need to eat something after you have a cup of coffee, do not eat. Until you are actually says, you know what, I could eat. Like, not because it's morning, eat because you're hungry. And that was really hard, because it's like, I was like, am I hungry? Is it because it's time? Am I hungry? It's because time. And it was like a 3-month process of like breaking me of I eat at this time because I've always eaten at this time. And I think, for, like you said earlier, so many of us, we've been beat into us that we shouldn't be hungry. Like, hunger is a sign. Hunger, and it's not a good sign. It's a bad sign. And that, every 3 hours we had to be fueling our metabolism. Well, all that did was make me fat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and I think it's tricky, because as I said, there are some people who
can get away with it.
Close woodshed, or something. If you've got a woodshed that's closed, then you do run out of fuel, because you've been doing low fat eating your whole life, and so you're a sugar burner, a carbohydrate burner. That's what your body's used to. That's what it wants. And that's what it keeps asking you for. And you go, I am hungry, Kim. What will I do? And I go, okay, what we're wanting to do is fuel our body with fat and protein as your protein first, protein and fat as your thing. So one of my favorite things is to go, am I egg hungry? Would I eat an egg? Would I eat a boiled egg? Assuming you're not allergic to eggs, would I eat a boiled egg? And most people go, oh no, I'm sick of eggs. Then you're not really hungry.
Right.
You're just looking, you're cruising the kitchen looking for something. A drive-by, opening the pantry and going, what is in here?
Right. What's gonna pop into my eye?
Yeah. So you're not really hungry. You're just maybe bored, lonely, something else.
Exactly.
But when you're hungry, you're very happy to eat a couple of scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
And so you go, And in fact, I actually love being a tiny bit hungry, not so hungry that I want to eat my arm off, but a tiny bit hungry, because it makes our food taste so much better.
Yes.
We've all had dinner when you've not really, you might have eaten something in the afternoon. You're not really hungry for dinner, but it's dinner time, and so you eat and it's like, it's all right, but it's not that good.
Right.
Whereas if you're a little bit hungry, you can't wait to have your dinner. You're so excited about it. And it can be exactly the same food, but it tastes so much better.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I remember when I was first learning about all of this, my coach at the time is like, you're hungry if you're going to eat broccoli. Like, that just like, you're like, because no one ever craves like, I could go for some broccoli today. Like no one ever says that. I mean, if you do, awesome, good for you. But most people don't ever have a hankering for broccoli. And it's like, if you can say, you know what, I could eat broccoli right now, then you aren't hungry. You're not hungry. You're in like seek and crave mode.
Yes. And I mean, the interesting thing is that processed food companies absolutely hijack our dopamine response.
God, yes,
to food.
Yeah,
they spend billions of dollars researching the bliss point. Ooh. Oh, sorry, Kim. I'll just go and grab my AirPod. Just flew out of my ear.
Don't worry.
It's under a table. I just have to go grab it. Ooh. Actually, I'm sorry, I actually can't reach it. It's flung under about 10,000 boxes.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Oh gosh, I'm really sorry.
No worries.
What if I try? Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Excellent. So let me just check. I'm really sorry about that. It's so annoying
trust me, the last 2 days, a technology gremlin has crawled into my home and has taken up residence.
Well, yes. Mine's a bit the same. In fact, this morning, obviously, because as I said, I just clicked on this Google Meet. I'm thinking, wait, what do I do here? And I don't know. And then suddenly I thought, I'll just press this other button. And then I was in your Zoom room. So there we go.
Yeah.
Yes. So we were talking about processed food companies taking over your reward signaling pathway.
Oh God, yes.
And yeah, they do. They make a product that your brain goes, oh my God, that is amazing. And give me more.
Yeah, there's a book, and I can't, I was, as you were talking, I was trying to think of the name, but there's a book, a guy who, he's a food researcher, and he basically said, I was in the industry for decades, and this was my job. My job was to find that right blend of, salt and sweet, that right blend of spice in this, so that when you first took a bite out of it, you just lost your damn mind.
Yes.
And
yes.
He talked about how the Doritos, he worked for Frito, and he talked about how his boss at the time went to a Mexican street fair, and someone made what would become the Dorito, and his boss was like, this was absolutely fabulous. And they're like, how do we recreate it so that it's not fresh, but it has that same, like, all the taste profiles. And Frito went for like years to create the Dorito. And if you think about the Dorito, you can't just have one.
No. And in fact, Pringles, that's their motto. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah.
So I often think, how amazing is that you've got a company that actually says they're proud. Once you pop, you can't stop. And it's like, yeah.
And they, you said, they spend billions to figure out the right combination that just like you, as soon as you see the packaging, you just remember like, oh yeah, that's going to be good. Yes. And I'm going to throw it in my cart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to then wolf down the whole packet, because once I pop, I can't stop.
Right. So I might as well buy two.
Yeah. And they're often on special anyway. Buy one, get the second one up price, or buy two for, not much more. So yeah, I fell into all of those traps. I used to always be bargain hunting for junk food because, sometimes I'd go and I'd look and I'd buy the one that's on special, even if it's not my favorite, because my brain loves a bargain and it's going, right, I'm going to buy this flavored chocolate because it's on special. I don't care about the rest. Yeah.
Or you'd buy it and it just wouldn't blow your hair back the way you thought it would.
Yeah.
But you would eat it anyway. So I always, I always tell my clients, I'm like, have 3 bites. And if it doesn't meet all the expectations, like if all the bells and whistles aren't going off in your brain, don't eat it. Like it's not, it's not worth finishing it just because you bought it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And this is it. You don't need to wait till Monday to change your mind.
Right.
You can stop halfway through your whatever product and go, actually, what am I doing? I don't even want this. Pang, put in the bin.
Right. Exactly.
I can't waste food.
okay, it's not food. That's not food. That's just a product.
Yeah.
And, it's so funny, again, how our brain has been conditioned to not waste food.
Yeah.
Food wastage is like a sin.
Yes.
But again, processed products aren't food. That's how I justify it in my head. And the other
Right.
thing is that you don't need to finish something off just so that you're not wasting it.
Right.
Your body isn't the bin. So we eat food, we'll eat the scraps off our kids' plates because we don't want to waste it, but we're not the bin.
No, we're not. We're not. And, so there's two things to follow up with that. So I interviewed a woman a few years ago about, how do you feed your kids? Because so many of my clients would be like, oh, I just keep eating off their plates. And so, the woman was like, you're feeding your kid too much. If you are if consistently find that your kid is leaving half their plate or whatever, you're giving them too much, because they can always, like, if you could, they scale it back and they can always ask for more.
Yes.
Right. Because and so that was just like, in my head, I'm like, that's just like freaking common sense.
Absolutely. And in fact, not just for your kids, you can do that for yourself.
Right.
You can give yourself a small bowl. And the deal is, if you're still properly hungry, you are allowed to go and get more.
Yeah. Or it gives you that. I always say, take a pause. Like, okay, you gave yourself that bowl of whatever. And if you finish it, just ask yourself, do you really want a second bowl? Or is it that you're telling yourself you deserve that second bowl? But it's like, give yourself a pause, give yourself a 5 hot minutes before you're sprinting back to the fridge.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, lots of people will go, I don't want to have to get up again and get more. So I'll just have a bigger plate now and that'll save me having to get up. And I go, no. We often want to put in a few little barriers to the quantity of food that you eat, because once it's in your bowl, it's very hard for our brain to leave it because of this conditioning about, too much on your plate. And in my day, we grew up with this line, there are children starving in Africa, you need to eat all your food. It's like,
it was
really.
And I laugh again. This is another thing that translates continents. There's always a starving kid somewhere, right? I don't know where the kids were starving in Africa when I was a kid. I don't know if it's moved on to India or if Afghanistan now, but there's always a kid starving somewhere. And I remember hearing a comedian being like, you know what? There's a kid starving everywhere, but you don't have to be the person that causes the starvation. So don't have to finish your plate. And, I'm not a big proponent of Noom, but one of the things that they did talk about was like, I've been conditioned to finish your plate. Yeah. And when my mother was a kid, her grandmother used to make her, if you didn't finish your plate, you had to sit there until it was done. Again, wasting food. And and my mother would like sit there for hours. And then finally my grandmother would want to like leave the kitchen. So she would take her plate, put it in the refrigerator, and serve it to her again and again and again until she finished eating whatever was on her plate. And so I'm grateful for that, because my mother was like, I will never make my kids finish what's on their plate, because that's a sign that they're done.
Absolutely. And I think the really important thing there is that kids actually have really good inbuilt hunger and satiety signaling.
Yes.
And children they're not conditioned. So what happens though is that as adults, we get worried if our kid hasn't eaten enough. We've got this mindset that, oh my God, that'll mean they'll wake up overnight if they haven't eaten everything. So we do all of these little tricks to try and cajole babies into eating, with planes on spoons to try and get, you're forcing them to eat. But what happens with kids is that, there'll be days where your child will wolf down buckets, 3 platefuls. And as a mother, you feel so proud. Oh, they ate my food. That's wonderful. But then they hardly eat anything the next day. And you go, oh my God, what's wrong with them? They ate everything yesterday. But kids are really good at regulating high energy days and low energy days. They know. They absolutely know.
Right. And it's you think about us, like some days I'm like, oh, I didn't really eat today. And then some days you're like, gosh, I'm like, I feel like the bottomless pit.
Yes. And that's normal. But we've been conditioned to think that that's not normal.
No.
And and I often think, I say to people, so if you have a car and you fill it up every Tuesday, no matter what, but you don't drive it for a week, do you go and fill it up? Of course you don't.
Right.
If you've driven that car extra, you put more petrol in.
Right.
We're not, we are not a 1,200 calorie a day person, no matter what. Like that's, again, it's what we've been conditioned to believe. We eat the same food every day, no matter what we do.
Yeah. And it's, one of the things I've been working a lot with my clients on is that like the concept of, I call them red, green, and yellow days. And we have those days where you're just like, you know what, I'm just not feeling it today. Like I got nothing in the tank, and be okay with having nothing in the tank, and be good with that. And then you have days where you're like, I woke up, I got a great night's sleep, I'm going to crush. That's the day that you crush. But it's like, we always feel like that we always have to be like, go, 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 or we're going to lose our gains.
Yeah. Yeah. And resting is lazy. So whatever you do, don't rest is what our brain goes. Oh, I can't be resting. And we're constantly having to achieve and tick things off the list. And you're right, absolutely right. We do not ever give ourselves permission to rest. But again, it's this balance. If we're constantly in overdrive, then we're not resting. We're not allowing our body to recover and replenish and rejuvenate.
Right. And as you know, I was stealing this from your website, which I absolutely love. And I think it's a great place to take us right now, is that like you were on your website, it's 95% mindset, 4% food, 1% movement. And in there, one of the things you said was, and it's kind of become like one of my like ways to create people's habits, is that our rigid mindset is what's keeping us stuck. That, we put these blinders on. And again, coming back to diet culture told us that I have to eat a certain amount of calories. And I'm sure you see this too, where it makes me cringe when someone's like, I haven't lost any weight. How many calories should I eat? What should I remove from my diet? And our mindset tells us that everything has to be about remove till I'm pretty much eating ice and lettuce.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, for lots of people, the way to lose weight, if you like, is to actually increase your food, but it's not, you don't increase necessarily, you can increase the amount, but it's increasing the quality of your food that makes the difference. Because again, our body doesn't run on calories. It runs on, it has nutrients. Sorry, darling, can you hear that noise? That's my husband. He's just got up because it's 7 o'clock in the morning here.
Yeah, no, I have one of those husbands too, who like, as soon as I say I'm doing a podcast, we'll start banging around. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, am I recording? Because I need to kill you right now.
As I am. I'm thinking,
no worries.
God. Not only has my earpod flung under the car thing, now my husband's decided to get out the coffee.
It's fine. I'm like, I feel like when you have a comedy of errors, it makes for a great podcast. So those of you guys listening, because I don't edit any of this out. I like, you know what? This is how life is. This is life.
Excellent. So yes, and in fact, that is one of my mantras. So my business is real life medicine, we call it that, because I am so big on just rocking up being real rather than curated. Because so many people, they use their filters and they're photoshopping and they're giving you the highlight reel of their life, and all that creates these feelings of inadequacy in the rest of us. And we're all perfectly flawed humans. No one is perfect. And in fact, that's one of my other things about diet culture, is that it's all about perfection. And perfection is a myth. We're not perfect. No, we don't need to be perfect. And we can just learn to manage our imperfections. And I think what diet culture encourages us to do is this idea that you're perfect. And if you're not perfect, then the words we use are not, we use words like you broke your diet, you cheated, you failed. Like, they're really, really destructive words to our psyche. And whereas if we look at words that going, right, well, we've got a path that we want to be on, and maybe we had a little deviation off that path, but we can just get back on it. And
Yeah.
my partner in crime, Dr. Mary, runs Real Life Medicine with me. Oh my God, now he's grinding beans. Can you believe that? It's like, seriously, dude. Anyway, I'm sorry, listeners. You got to hear my husband in the
But
background.
I absolutely love it because husbands are all the same. they're all the same.
I know. And it's like, yeah. Anyway, hopefully he won't come barging in. No, I don't think he will.
Right.
But anyway, even if he does, I'll be very grateful because what he will be doing is bringing me coffee, which is
Okay.
great.
So he can live. He gets another day of life.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, as you said, and people use just really, really harsh language.
Yes.
And that then translates into us. And I'm sure, like, again, in the old days when I was a dieter, I would use words to beat myself up because what I thought was that if I was mean to myself, that would motivate me to do better. So I would go, oh my God, Lizzie, you're so bloody hopeless. Get your act together. You're such a loser. You've just got to be good. You've got to be perfect. You've got to get on this and just do it right for once.
Yes.
And there'd be this sort of chatter going on all the time. And then I'd get to a situation where I'm trying to make a decision, and the decision would be things like, oh, don't eat it. You're going to ruin everything. You're going to, wonder haven't lost any weight.
Right.
And some of that, again, came from, Weight Watchers. And, for a long time. And I mean, I was a Weight Watchers Life member because I lost weight. I could lose the weight.
Right.
And you'd go there and you'd have what one of my clients calls the weight witches, and she'd stand there and you'd hop on the scales and they'd comment.
Right.
And if you hadn't lost, they go, so what have you been eating this week? And you'd go, oh, I don't know, maybe I had one cake. Oh, that'll be it. That one cake, that's ruined everything. You need to do better. And so you had this idea that you had to do better, and that one cake was ruined everything. And it doesn't. One cake, it's like one shower doesn't break a drought.
Right, exactly.
Or one shower doesn't cause a flood. It's not the one little thing that you're doing. If you had cake, 3 times a day, every day, yeah, okay, well,
Right, we got issues.
Yeah. But it is hard to navigate this path. Like if it was easy, we'd all be doing it. If it was easy, it would be.
Right.
And I guess there's one little point I just want to make, and it is about, I have this idea that there are like 3 buckets of people. Mm-hmm. So one set of people don't care about food at all. They're the people that'll have cake like once a year at someone's fancy birthday, and they just don't care. They're not food orientated. These are the same people, and they're not the same people, but it's a similar concept that maybe somebody has a glass of wine twice a year or something, and really they go, oh yeah, that was all right, but whatever.
Right.
You've then got the middle bucket of people who are perhaps eating more than they want to or should, or that more than is helpful to them. And they might be the people that are eating maybe chocolate and ice cream on the couch every night because they've had a bad day at work, or it's, for various reasons. They can actually stop. It's possibly causing them some, issues, but it's not completely detrimental to their health yet. Mm. And then you've got the third bucket of people that are completely addicted to particularly these processed sugars and really can't stop, even though it is causing them complete harm. So they may have diabetes, they may have even had complications from their diabetes, and they still can't stop. It's very similar to alcohol. You've got people that, as I said, drink wine once or twice a year. You've got people that are probably drinking, every night, but it's all right. And then you've got the people that have, serious alcohol problems, and they've lost their house and their marriage, but they still keep drinking. It's exactly the same with gambling. Same thing. People buy, a lotto ticket once or twice a year, no big deal. Other people, it's part of their culture, their friends, particularly young men these days. They spend a considerable amount of their money gambling, but they haven't lost anything yet. And then the third lot. So I think with every person, I often say to you, you need to know yourself well. You need to work out which bucket you're in. The majority of people are in the middle bucket. And that's fine. Some people are actually in this end bucket, the big bucket, where really it is like an addiction. They are completely hooked on processed food. And for them, and honestly, Kim, I was probably in that bucket. Like
Right.
I just found it really hard to stop. And so for me, even now, what happens is that I know myself really well. I know that if I have a hankering for a cookie and I have one, that hankering doesn't go away. I then just want another one.
Right.
And the hankering still doesn't go away. It's like an itch that doesn't get scratched. And so that is part of the reason why I can easily, once I start, I can keep going. And I actually don't like that feeling. So for me, I recognize that for me, it is easier to have no cookies than to have one. And it's not that I am feeling deprived or restricted. I no longer feel deprived or restricted because I now know myself well. And I now know that for me, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. Now, that's not the same for everybody. There are some people that can go, oh, I really feel like something. And they'll go, I'll just have one cookie, or I'll just have two squares of chocolate or whatever. I'll just have a small amount of, they can portion control, they can weigh out their blah, blahs. And for them, that it works really well. But you need to know which bucket you're in.
Right.
And when you work that out, and probably for most of us listening, most of us aren't in the first bucket, because if we're in the first bucket, we wouldn't have any issues with managing our health and weight because we're not food orientated. And I look even at my two kids. I've got two kids. One's in the middle bucket and one's probably in the end bucket.
Right.
She's not ready to address her food addiction. That's her. And again, it will not help if I try and force my views on her, because you cannot change another person.
Can't.
You can only change yourself. But knowing that, for me, really, it doesn't feel restricted anymore. It feels liberating, because what used to happen was I'd eat the whole packet, feel terrible, feel really bad, really like I'm hopeless, weak, useless. And then I'd have to kind of counter this, sin that I've done. And the only way I felt that I could get redemption was to then restrict the next day. And I'd go, oh God, well, I've been so bad. I'm going to eat nothing the next day to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
So this again is all this idea that, and it is complicated. Like if it was easy, we would all just be, oh, now my dog's barking. Can you believe it? If it was easy, we would all just be walking an easy path. But it is one of my favorite sayings is to say weight loss, permanent weight loss, so sustainable long-term weight loss, is a personal development journey. It's not a meal plan.
Right. Yes.
You learn to know yourself really well, learn to know what your drivers for eating are. And, sometimes they're stress, sometimes they're emotional, sometimes they are actually addiction. And you can once you work out your drivers, then you can work with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, as we kind of start to wrap it up, I feel that most people don't take the time. I don't take a step back to assess what's going on in my world right now. I'm no, I'm going to pull this book off the shelf, or I'm going to Google this, or so-and-so is doing that. So that's what I'm going to do versus what lane am I in? Right.
Yes.
What is my bucket? Because if I'm constantly doing things that are out of my bucket, I'm always going to feel like a failure.
Correct.
Because I'm not choosing something that's where I am right now.
Absolutely. And I totally, I completely agree with you. And, and this is again, part of where diet products are offering a quick solution. You don't have to know yourself well, just drink my shakes. That'll be fine. That's all you have to do. And it's like, that will help you maybe with some short-term weight loss. But really, at the end of the day, I know people sometimes want to lose weight for a holiday, but really, do you want to actually just lose weight only to regain it, only to lose it, only to regain it? It's exhausting. It really is.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea of I drive down the road of life. And I used to drive careering, one side perfect, the other side a bender. And I was out of control. And now when you learn to know yourself, when you know who you are, what bucket you're in, what your drivers are, what your motivation is, all of that, it's like you're driving down the road and you've got lane assist now, and you
Yeah.
make little adjustments all the time, and it's easy. It's easy. You're not overcorrecting all the time. You're just doing this. And
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah. And even though we both don't like the term maintenance, that's where I always tell people, and lane assist is the perfect thing, where it's like, it's green if things are going well, but there are times in life where we're going to steer a little bit off to the left. And like, I mind, like, my steering wheel buzzes, and so it's like, my steering wheel's buzzing. So it's like, I look and I'm like, oh, you know what? I was having a little bit too many of those biscuits. Okay. So you know what? I can have a biscuit, but not every night.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I can get back in my lane.
Totally. And I remember I read somewhere that a plane flying from Melbourne to San Francisco makes, I don't know, like 6,000 micro corrections as it flies over there. And if it didn't make those micro corrections, it would end up in Antarctica.
Huh.
So I think often that's now what I look at. I go, I'm just making micro corrections, and micro corrections are easy compared to these careering where it was hard, because, you're constantly turning that steering wheel and overcorrecting and then turning it back. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting. And this has been like such a great conversation. And one of the things I always ask everyone who is on my podcast, I ask, what makes you feel magical?
Yeah. So for me, the magical thing for me has been knowing what were my drivers for eating in the past. Now, instead of using berating to motivate myself, because that was always what I thought, and I would have I'd have like pictures of a pig in my cupboard, just awful things to try and motivate myself. And now I motivate myself. I now treat myself with love and compassion and kindness, recognize that I'm not perfect and I don't need to be, and that if I'm not liking what I'm doing, if I'm not liking my behavior, I look at, what's driving my behavior, and what do I need to then make adjustments to so that I can do the thing I want to do.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's also getting to know you, right? You had to like know you. Who is Lucy outside of the particular plan you were following?
Yeah. And you know what? I am more than the number on my scales.
Yes.
My day doesn't, I don't weigh myself anymore. And I know we were talking about maintenance, but the weight I lost 3 years ago, it's for the first time in my life, it's stayed off. Normally by now I would have gained and lost that same. So it was 20 kilos, which is about 45 pounds. And I would have gained and lost that 3 times again by now.
Oh yeah.
And I was just sick of people asking me, are you on a diet this week, Lucy? Because they knew if I was on a diet, they wouldn't offer me the food. If I was on a diet, I'm probably going to eat the whole plate.
Yes. I know that. That was me too.
Yeah. It's disempowering, and being in control now of what I eat without rigidity. So it's in control. I feel in control, but I'm not rigid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I like that, because it's like rigidity. I think about like being in like a glass box, and like if I make one false move, everything's gonna break. And I feel so many women put themselves self-imposed box that I have to show up at a friend's party, and I better make sure I ate before I go so that I don't lose my shit at the party. I better make sure when I go to the party that I don't have a glass of wine, and everyone should know I'm on a diet and what diet I'm on. And, I got the willpower and the discipline, where it's like, go to have a party and enjoy yourself. Like, don't be that girl.
Yeah. Although it's interesting, because what would happen for me was that I would be spending my time thinking about the party, and it would be entirely about the food.
Yes.
I'd be thinking, what am I going to, this will be good. I'm going to go. And it would be like almost like permission to completely stuff myself. because it was acceptable. And I actually, to the point where I didn't even care about the people.
Right.
So obsessed about the food there, largely because I was probably starving myself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And instead now I would go to a party and my focus is the people, because that's why you go. I mean, if it was about the food, I could just stay in my bedroom and scoff food.
Right.
So the party is about the people. So again, just saying, well, what is this gathering about? Is it entirely about the food? And again, when you maybe sugar obsessed as I was, it was a bit like, what event could I get my fix and do it sort of legally in my brain?
Right.
So there was some interesting dialogue that just went on. And again, I didn't know this. It's all been unpacked over the last few years to work out, okay, now I know what's going on. So I will go to a party. I certainly will have a glass of wine, because wine for me is something I can regulate. If I had an alcohol problem, if wine was something I couldn't regulate, then I wouldn't have wine.
Right.
I would go out. So I guess that's probably my messaging, is working out what food is easy for you to regulate.
Yeah.
If you can regulate food easily, then that's easy. But for me, so if there was a bowl of M&Ms there, I would have trouble regulating those, because I would then go, and I just keep wanting to go back and get more and more and more. And then I start this, again, this cycle of self-berating and shame and all that sort of stuff. And it's actually easy for me to work out, all right, M&Ms is something I have trouble regulating. So I'm not going to have those. But, whatever else is there, let's say there's quiche or something like that. I don't have any trouble regulating that. I'm going to have some quiche. I'm going to have some, sausage rolls. I don't have any trouble regulating those. That's no problem. Cheesecake, yeah, probably, because then what I'm trying to do, and this is where it gets awkward, is that I'm wanting more and more cheesecake, and I'm thinking, how many people have seen me have a slice?
Yes.
Right. I'm trying to then sneak back to have another slice without anyone noticing. And again, this is part of shame, and there's a whole nother topic that we could one day chew the fat on about food shame. But yeah, that it is just. I think that's it. Again, part of knowing yourself is working out what's easy for you to regulate. And it's not about good and bad. It's and everyone's different. I'm also not very good at regulating nuts. So even though nuts are whole food, lots of good proteins and everything in them,
I have a lot of peanut butter. I have a lot of peanut butter addicts. And so I'm like, you know what? At some point they can come back. But at this point, why am I going to try to strap myself to my chair, and I'm like, I'm not gonna have it, and the whole time peanut butter is dancing across my desk, that's all I can see and all I can think about. And I was like, for now, leave it out of the house. Why challenge your willpower, right? There's so many other things.
Absolutely. I love this idea that, and I learned this from a horse trainer, make the right thing easy. So the thing that you want to do, make that easy. Make the wrong thing, so the thing that you don't want to do, eat the peanut butter, make that harder.
Right.
And the harder, and yeah, I mean, people go, but I can just drive down to the supermarket and get it. Yeah, of course you can. But it's a bit harder to do.
Right. No one, here it is, are you going to get up at 7 a.m. and be like, yeah, I'm totally going to drive to the grocery store right now. You're like, well, I got to put clothes on. Then I got to get in the car. And then it might be raining outside, or it might be, bad weather. And you're like, do I really want to go out in that? And then so you're less likely to do that versus all I got to do is walk down the stairs, walk down the hall.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, people that have it sitting out on the bench. So you weren't even thinking about it. And there it is. Bang. Oh, I wouldn't mind some of that. So yeah. Oh, and I know it's tricky. People go, but my kids eat peanut butter, and that's, it's not fair to them. Well, again, kids can survive without peanut butter for a little bit. It is much easier for you to do, put yourself at the top for once.
Well, let's flip, and I know someone says that to me, I'm like, I'm going to flip the script. What if your kid had a peanut allergy?
Yeah.
Right. So it's because I don't know how the peanut police are in Australia, but pretty much if you bring a peanut butter sandwich to any elementary school here, everyone's like,
oh yeah, hung, drawn, and quartered. Absolutely. Yeah.
You're sorry.
Yeah. Who are you? Are you trying to kill your friend?
Right.
Yeah, no.
You might as well have brought a gun to school.
Yes, exactly. So that's, I think that's it. It really is about, knowing yourself well, working out which bucket you're in, what is easy for you to regulate, and make make it easy, make life easy for yourself.
Yes.
And make the right thing easy, and so the thing you want to do easy, and the thing that you don't want to do, make that harder.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Making it easy is just absolutely the best way to do that. Well,
Yeah.
Dr. Lucy, thank you so much for your time. You've given like so many great insights. And ladies, if you have found like any of this helpful, do me a favor, find Lucy on the socials. Where can they find you on the socials?
So Real Life Medicine is our name. And again, because we're real, and our website is rlmedicine.com. And if anyone is interested in reading particularly about the woodshed, then we have a free ebook that they can download, which goes, writes it all out, because sometimes the concept people go, what was she talking about again?
Right.
So we've got it. Yeah, we've got it all written in a book.
Right. And so that link will be in the show notes. And again, make sure if this resonated with you, follow her on social media, go to her website,
thank you.
Check her out, because she has been an absolute dream guest. And thank you so much for taking the time today, or the morning.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome, Kim. Thank you. And thank you for putting up with all my realness.
No, I had a lot of realness too.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much.